I don't believe we have any public comments today that I've heard of.
No comments. Oh, no speakers, rather.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to hold the approval of the minutes from the prior meeting, since it isn't really fair to ask Commissioner Ferrer to vote on something he didn't attend. So at our next meeting, we will have 2 sets of minutes, please, and we will vote on both of those.
So just so that I'm clear, I beg your pardon. So we'll include 2 sets of minutes from this, the minutes which are here, as well as the minutes of this
Yes,
committee. So
and
will
then
both be in the book.
And we'll approve both of them at the next
same time.
meeting.
Okay, thank you.
I have no quarrel with the minutes.
No.
In fact, I will make a comment about the minutes.
I'm sure if you have no quarrel with them, neither do I. I don't think they're not.
Okay. I'll approve these minutes. I do want to make one point. I realize that because in the last meeting we went through the EEO report and we did talk at great length about meeting other goals, I was very happy to see the best practice hiring initiative that's been started, and I'm sure you're going to keep us informed on that.
Yes.
I think this is the right way to go. I'm pleased to see all of the agencies working with MTA headquarters on it, and I'm looking forward to seeing the results. I think that may have a big influence over our EEO results. So thank you for that.
Leon Goodman, who was co-chairing the roundtable, was here to give
Terrific.
a quick briefing.
Terrific. Work plan, any issues?
Just so you know, since there was supposed to be a committee meeting in July, but since we will not have a committee meeting in July, the items that were supposed to be in July have been moved to June.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the only change in the work plan.
Thank you. The Diversity and Outreach Report.
Zaneta?
Zaneta?
Oh, good afternoon. I guess if we could just bring the slide up for
I beg your
outreach.
pardon.
Okay, aligned are the outreach initiatives that we have scheduled for July, August, and September. Of course, as always, these are all tentative. We seem to add on as the months come along. But just to give a brief synopsis of what we've done between May and June, we have actually reached out with the small business training program to several the counties. We've managed to hit quite a bit, and we're still pending on Nassau, Queens, and the Bronx. So we're going to be scheduling those in probably somewhere in September and August. We are also, as you can see, in August, plan on having the annual Competitive Edge Conference, which is one of the largest conferences that we participate in. This is the 18th year. In the past, we have had, the MTA has actually taken the lead on it, and we usually take turns with the other city and state agencies. So Battery Park will be taking it for the next 2 years. It is scheduled for August 11th. And what we do is have workshops in financing, contracting opportunities. We bring out the procurement, the buyers, or representatives of each of the agencies. And we have an attendance over 300 firms that come in and take part in these workshops. We will be sending out invites to all the board members, so we'll be happy to have you there. A VIP reception is scheduled for August 10th.
Where is it going to be this year?
It's going to be at Barclay, Bank of New York, Mellon Bank.
Yep.
We have actually, in addition to have the city and state agencies, we've picked up a couple of corporates, which is Mellon Bank, along with Goldman Sachs, National Grid, because they all have MWBE programs, so we want to make sure that we can give a lot of opportunities out. We have given a forum, a supplier commodities forum this past month, which turned out to be pretty big. We had, what we do is we have outreach events in-house and out-house, and this forum took place up into Broadway, where we invited over 110 firms to come in and meet with our exhibitors who were the GCs who are actually have contracts with us now. It was a very successful event, we think, and of course we're looking to grow it more and more. We also have, which what Mike will probably talk later on about, the mentoring program, which is more in classes that are scheduled straight through the month of December. So I think that's my presentation on the outreach initiatives.
Thank you.
Gwen Harleston is not here today, but Roberto Aguirre will present diversity programs.
Good afternoon, everyone. There's not much to report. As we reported last meeting, in June, we celebrated Japanese American Heritage Month here in the boardroom, and also B&T celebrated Caribbean American Heritage Month. I went to both events, and they were incredible. In July and August, we're going to have Dining with Diversity. In July, we're scheduled to go to Uncle Vanya's. It's a Russian cuisine. And the intent is to go to places where we normally don't have events here at the agencies. So Russian culture is something that we never really do. We're going to go to Uncle Vanya's in July. The list is growing as we speak. That's it.
Thank you. That's always fun, the Dining with Diversity. Carolyn, are you going to do certification?
Sure.
Good morning. Good afternoon, rather. This month, I'm only reporting on 2 months, not the full quarter as I usually do, since we're having the meeting in June as opposed to July. In terms of applications, in April we received 9 new applications, in May we received 3 for a total of 12. What I've provided here, though, is, again, a chart from 2008, the year before Mike started, versus up to 2011 currently, so you can see how we are doing. Now, interestingly enough, we only had 9 applications in April, but I think we're making up for that in June because, we only had 3 applications, I meant to say, in May, but we're making up for that in June because thus far, I already have 15 applications for the month of June, and they're still coming in.
Good.
In terms of certification determinations, we certified, those 2 months, we certified 11 firms. We denied 2. 1 was returned, and 2 firms withdrew their applications for a total of 16 that were processed for those 2 months.
Okay.
Let me just,
CEO and-
I just want to make a quick comment on the certification efforts. As we have increased our outreach, our certification numbers have been coming in, but our program is not based upon certification. It's based upon, once firms are certified,
Right.
how we can do a more effective job of integrating these newly certified firms into all of the operating agencies. So that's where the focus is. How can we prep these firms into getting into the buying process at each one of the operating agencies? So that's where the focus really is.
You know, I also would like to point out that at least in my county, I've noticed that with the economic difficulties that we've been in over the last couple of years, there are fewer and fewer firms still operating. So it's, you know, I've been thinking about whether that's going to impact us down the line, and I've been fairly happy that you've managed to maintain the number of applications that you've gotten, but I am curious going forward if we're going to be losing people that have already been qualified, and whether my county is an aberrant situation, I can't say. It may be.
You know, interestingly, I'd say we have not had to remove certifications from as many firms this last year as we have in the past. So we are maintaining steadily right now.
Great.
There was a time when we had a number of firms who did not respond or who said they weren't getting business and were no longer interested in continuing. That's not the case right now.
Well, more
Doesn't mean it
firms
won't
are getting
change.
business,
Right.
so that
Right.
you know that's
Right.
our goal.
Right.
More firms with more business. The EEO in Title VI.
Yes, good afternoon again. This year we reported to the Federal Transit Administration our EEO program. This is a triennial submission, so this was the reporting year. The EEO program, for the EEO program, the MTA has its own EEO program. The agencies submit their own EEO programs, and then we make a joint submission to the FTA. The agencies for this program, they conduct an availability analysis of minorities and women in the relevant labor markets, and then we conduct a utilization analysis to determine how we're doing in terms of within our own workforce. So we compare workforce numbers to what's to be expected based on the census data. And if there's any underutilization, then the agencies and headquarters, we come up with projected goals to meet that underutilization. This year's program was submitted to the FDA in May 2011, and one of the things that we earlier alluded to was the fact that how we are going to come up with various strategies to correct this underutilization. And I want to, at this point, introduce Leon Goodman, who's the Distinguished Assistant Director for MTA Human Resources, and he's going to be speaking about our best practices across the MTA agencies in order to come up with strategies for retention of minorities and women within our workforce, as well as to increase the representation of minorities and women. So, Leon, I'm giving it over to you.
Thank you, Naeem. I've been called a lot of things, and distinguished is not one of them, but thank you. Thank you, though. I'd like to talk a little bit. There are some new people in the room that may not be familiar with the roundtable, so I'll just give a brief overview. The roundtable started about 3.5 years ago when we were out in the field, meaning my peers on the recruitment and sourcing side of the business, and we recognized that the MTA was spending a lot of money in a manner which we perceived to be unnecessary. An example would be that we would go to job fairs or career fairs throughout here in the city as part of our community outreach, and we would have 7 tables, one table for each of our respective agencies at about $1,500 to $2,000 apiece. And after seeing that for a couple of times, I have to give credit to Fred Gill from Metro North and Leda Myers from New York City Transit. We sat down and we talked about that, and it made absolutely no sense to us. So we decided to create the roundtable because we thought that by demonstrating how we could save money on the front end, we'd be able to move forward to initiate some additional kinds of things to impact our recruitment efforts. And in doing so, we started the roundtable. The roundtable is representative of all the agencies, and most recently, we had a meeting which was very well attended, and from this meeting, Mike Garner tasked us to create the best practices hiring initiative based on some of the things relative to the underutilization report and the areas that we need to address. The subcommittee of the best practices hiring initiative includes Long Island Railroad, Bridges and Tunnels, Metro North, MTA Bus, the BSC, Capital Construction, Long Island Bus, myself here at headquarters, as well as the Office of DDC&R. And the idea behind this is that how can we identify areas in which we can affect change in terms of how we do business? One of the things that we decided to do was to take a look at how we're currently doing business, and then we would move forward from that. Now, one of the things that I would like to add to the committee is that this is a working document. We have not finalized anything yet. Everything is still on the proposal, so anything that I say today is subject to change, and I want to just share that because nothing has been finalized as of yet. We're going to have a follow-up meeting with both Mike and Ms. Ritter to talk about where we'd like to go. But there's some basic things that we thought that were very, very important. First of all, we decided that we needed a comprehensive MTA, all MTA recruitment and sourcing database. One of the things that we found as we began the conversation was that each of us of our respective agencies, we have contacts with all of our organizations, all of our affiliate groups, or our affiliate relationships, but we do it individually. So we thought it best to develop this comprehensive database so that all of our recruitment sources would be in one place. Since we're taking a look at things that actually worked, we've taken a look and we've had some discussions with Metro North, and I've actually seen their recruitment and sourcing database, and it's really comprehensive. So we're going to model our database based upon Metro North's version. And we're going to move it one step further once we finalize this and take the database and move it to the Business Service Center where they will be responsible for managing it so it will be available to all of the agencies when there are open positions available. Now, mind you, again, this is still a working document, so I just want to remind people that we're still in the process of developing this. So having said that, that's one of the primary things that we thought we needed to do. We needed to identify a manner in which we consistently were able to reach out to organizations, to professional groups, to women's organizations, to community-based agencies that's not going to charge us a fee and will send us candidates for our jobs. The idea here is to ensure that the kinds of candidates that we're actually taking a look at are the kinds of candidates that can actually fill the positions that we have available. And I want to talk a little bit towards the latter part of my conversation with you about one of the things that we're going to be doing. In addition, we also thought that DDCR, they do a lot of work with the underutilization report. And what we found in the course of our conversation is that we do not have a uniform manner in which to use the data that is created. So one of the recommendations that we're going to submit to Mike and to Diana is that we set up a uniform process by which we look at that data and we move forward in our goal setting based upon the data. What we're probably going to recommend is that each agency meet in the first quarter of each year to talk about goal settings. Now, some agencies are doing it, so we want to applaud all the agencies that's doing it, but some agencies also admitted that what we do is that we look at the data on a position-by-position basis instead of collectively. So I know that the data is available to us, and we're now going to take advantage of it so that once the data is collected, we can then move forward with addressing the issues that have been identified as being underutilized. That's one of the major areas that the subcommittee is recommending. One of the other areas that we're recommending is that we take a look at the use of a keyword search on our employment database. If you go to monster.com or if you go to hotjobs.com, you can put in the keyword, hypothetically, engineering, and get all the jobs that are available to someone that are engineering. Well, we want to use that same concept here at the MTA. So when an applicant go to our website at mta.info, they can type in the word engineering, and every single job across the agency that has engineering responsibilities will become available. And then the applicant can go to each of the respective agencies and apply for those jobs. As we migrate towards using PeopleSoft agency-wide, I think this will be particularly beneficial because it will do two things. Actually, there's a side benefit that it will allow candidates to go into our website and find opportunities. And then while they're there, they're going to say, wow, what an advanced organization. Let me stick around and see what else is on this website. So we see a twofold purpose in doing that. We also want to enhance the use of our social media sites to reach out and to find candidates. If I remember correctly, Wendy, Fred Gill found you on LinkedIn. Is that correct? It is correct. See, I remembered that. It works. It works. Yes. So, and Wendy is an example of that. So we want to cross-pollinate the entire agency with that concept. And we're using our subject matter experts, and I mentioned Fred Gill, because Fred is my partner in a lot of these things I've been doing on the roundtable, but the point is he has been using that, and he's used it successfully, so we want to push that out to the other agencies as well. And then finally, one of the other things, the last two things I want to talk about is better use of the Department of Labor site across New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. There are a lot of people out of work. There are a lot of qualified people out of work. So one of the things that we talked about in this subcommittee is using the Department of Labor sites to our advantage, because the Department of Labor site has two benefits. One, it doesn't cost us anything. And two, you can do resume mining now on the Department of Labor site. And if you do resume mining, you can go and look for people there. And we may end up getting some people who were recently laid off that will be looking for an opportunity in a place like the MTA. And finally, the last thing I want to talk about is how are we going to go about with our community outreach efforts to address the underutilization that has been identified. Well, several years ago in the process of creating the roundtable, we also talked about what is our value to the community? What is it that we can do to ensure that we go into a community, we're actually adding value? So we created what we call the MTA Roundtable, which I'd like to share with the group. And the MTA Roundtable is essentially a recruitment tool and a job readiness tool that we take to the community so that the community, one, can look at our websites, and some of the job readiness seminars that we do are Dress for Success, how to navigate our website. We even do resume writing, not resume critiquing, because everyone has their own style. But the point is we add value by bringing a service to the community with the understanding and the mindset that whether we hire them here at the MTA or if we assist them in getting a job someplace else, they're going to use our services. So there's a return on the investment. So that's essentially where we are with the proposals, and we'll be fleshing this out a little bit more and talking to Mike and to Diana as we move in the next step.
That's really great. It's interesting to me because you're really achieving two goals here. You're addressing the issue that we had about finding good minority and women employees, but you're also really doing workforce development on a larger scale. And then after doing it here for the MTA, you're reaching out to the wider world.
That's exactly right.
So that's...
And I thank you for that comment. We've actually conducted two pavilions, one in Connecticut and one in Yonkers, and the response we got was very, very positive. We haven't rolled out any recently, but we think that this is an outreach mechanism by which we can do exactly what you're saying. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to give you a call later in the month.
Okay.
Because I'm curious about a couple more details. So.
Okay, well, Mike will have the proposal probably by... Yeah.
Terrific.
So once again...
That's a promise.
Yeah, no, it is. We're just re-reviewing it and making sure that the kinds of things that we're talking about are doable.
So once again,
That
to recap, the goal here is to ensure that our hiring process is diverse.
That's right.
As per my one-on-one conversation with Chairman Walter, he indicated that we are in the most diverse city in the country. And so there should not be any segment of the population that we don't employ.
That's right.
And I think that why this is important is because historically we focus on the problems, and now we should be really focusing on solutions to those problems. Mm-hmm. And the chairman has also said that he has led by example in his hiring at HQ. And as of Friday night, as you saw, I sent an email out briefing the agency presidents that we're going to have these best practices, submit them to Chairman Walter, get the approval, and then roll it out agency by agency by agency. Because in 2011, intelligent people will not have an intelligent conversation about how we can hire ethnic minorities and women here at the MTA.
Absolutely.
Not happening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Haim, back to you.
Thank you. The second report that we filed this year, thank you, Leon. The second report that we filed this year was our Title VI report. That's also a report that's filed on a triennial basis with the Federal Transit Administration for MTA headquarters as well as for Metro North, Long Island Railroad, New York City Transit, MTA Bus, and Capital Construction, the agencies that receive federal financial assistance. So the purpose of this, the objective rather of Title VI is to make sure there's equal access to transportation services and other transit-related benefits without regard to race, color, or national origin, and also to make sure there's meaningful access to our programs and activities by people who have limited English proficiency. So the agencies do conduct their Title VI, prepare the Title VI reports. They do a statistical analysis to make sure that the transit services that they're providing is equitable, and listed above on the screen that you see are different methods for them to assess the service that they provide. MTA collects those reports, reviews them, and does a analysis of these reports, and these reports are filed with the Federal Transit Administration. This was as I mentioned, a triennial report, so this was the reporting year, and the report was filed in May 2011. And I do want to thank the agencies for their help in helping us with their Title VI and EO programs. And as I said, this was a lengthy process, so I do wish to thank them for their efforts.
Thank you. On to the goal setting.
Yes.
Before you start,
Yes.
I don't want to blindside you with this. Since at the moment it's just me and Fred,
Yes.
what I'm going to ask is that the other two committee members who are in the country anyway, Mr. Banks and Mr. Bickford, meet with us at 8:45 on Monday before the board meeting. Now, they're familiar with the process of setting the goal.
Sure.
But I want to be sure that all four of us have an opportunity to talk about that, and we'll take our vote to move it to the board at that time instead of now.
Sure.
I still think that you should hit the highlights of how these goals are set.
Okay. and then we'll meet with them, meet with you rather on Wednesday.
It's not necessary for everybody to get up at the crack of dawn and be here, but it would be helpful if you and Mike could be here.
Sure, in this room?
Either this room or a smaller room upstairs.
Okay, sure. I'll be there.
I think probably a smaller room downstairs. I'll find a room.
Okay, sure. Well, as you
Is that
know,
okay with you? Can you be there? Great.
as you know, we used to set our overall DBE goal for on an annual basis. However, about 2 years ago, the federal regulations were revised, so now we are setting our goal on a triennial basis. So, as you said, I will just hit the highlights, and then we will can have this conversation with you in detail as to how we came about setting the goal. So, this is a 3-year goal based on the anticipated expenditures involving federal funds, where we expect that there would be opportunity for DBE participation. And the goal is prepared and sent to the Federal Transit Administration. The FTA does not actually approve our goal, but they do approve the methodology that we use to arrive at our goal. The new regulations say that even though this is a 3-year goal, goals can be adjusted to reflect changed circumstances, and I believe we may have to revisit this goal because the goal is based on projects which are in the current capital program, which is a 5-year program, and it's been approved through calendar year 2011. There is no local funding at this point for the remaining 3 years of the capital program. So once those decisions are made and how the local funding is going to be made available for the remaining 3 years of the capital program, that may affect how the agencies plan to use their federal funding, because there is a federal share and there's a local share. Mm-hmm. So if there is not enough local share, then they may use these federal funds in a different way, and then we may have to go back and see how they were planning to use the federal funds for the 3 years. Ideally, this goal should have been set once the capital program is approved, but we have a time deadline we have to comply with from the federal pursuant to the federal regulations. So we set a goal, and the regulations do provide for a waiver of goals. Once before a contract is awarded, the FTA has told us that once a contract is awarded, the goals become commitments. Even though a prime contractor can substitute one DB for another, they still have to comply with the goal, because after the award, it's more of a commitment than a goal.
Right. What that means essentially is that once a contract is signed, the MWDB goals becomes part of the terms and conditions of the contract.
And it's not an exercise for your name. The board remains hopeful that we will be funded through the entire term of the 5-year capital program.
Right, just the question of how the
Yes.
funding would. So that's why I wanted to preface that by saying that we may have to.
It's possible that you'll have to make changes.
Right. So, pursuant to federal regulations, the purpose of the MTA DB program is to establish a level playing field for expected DB participation, and a principal goal of the regulations is to generate increased opportunities for DBs to participate in federally funded contracts while using narrowly tailored means that do not unduly burden non-DBEs. The regulations say that our goal must be clearly tied to local market evidence, and that the goal must reflect what we expect to have in terms of DBE participation, minus the effects of any past discrimination. So, as I said, it's a 3-year goal. The first step is to establish what is called a base figure. And so we look at what's the availability of DBE firms, looking at the state and federal directories and a bidders list. Sir, yes.
I just wanted to understand DBE availability in those 3 subpoints a little better.
If you could just turn off your microphone.
Terribly sorry.
That's quite all right.
I want to understand DBE availability in the 3 bullet points underneath a little better.
Sure.
Could you
Sure.
elaborate?
Yes, well, the federal regulation, it's all driven by federal regulations, and they say that we can cast our net broadly to see what kind of DBEs, those disadvantaged business enterprises are out there in the marketplace that you can use to come up with your goal. What's the availability? How many firms are out there?
Do you define that by geographic area?
In the areas that we expect to do business in our service region.
Which is it? In the areas we expect to do business or in the service region?
Within our service area.
In the 19 counties?
14.
14, whatever. In those counties?
Right.
Okay.
And so we can cast our net broadly, meaning that we can look at our directory of certified DBEs. We can also look at our DBEs, which is certified by the New York State as MWBs, because they are considered potential DBEs. And the firm that have done business with us, so you take them and you see what's out there. That's the availability.
So if one's in Monroe County, it's out of our service area?
Right.
Okay. Got it.
So we also look at all firms which are there. For that, we use the 2008 U.S. Census Bureau county business pattern, which became available in 2010. So you look at the firms, all the firms which are out there. You look at the DBEs which are out there, and then you look at what kind of contract work we expect to award. Is it going to be general construction, special trades, architectural engineering? So when we calculate the availability, those are weighted availabilities. So if, for instance, if you take a look at DBEs divided by all firms times, if it's 90% is going to be construction, times 90%. So we look at not just the general availability, but also in those areas in which there expect to be contract awards.
It's a lengthy process that involves the agencies estimating what their work is going to be, as well as everything else. Doing it once every 3 years was a blessing.
Well, in a way, but in another way, it might not be, because if circumstances change, then we would
still
have to go back and see if that's still true. Because sometimes it is difficult to look 3 years down the road as opposed to just looking the next year. So
and this is one of those years.
Yes. So the goals that we set for the next 3 years will, I think, in my opinion, we would constantly have to keep looking to see if did anything change, because once you establish a goal, you sort of wedded to it, and then you have to justify if you don't meet the goal. So if your circumstances change, and then you would have to, I think we would have to revisit the goal and see if that still applies. Is it going to be 17%, or might be higher, might be low? So I beg your pardon. I think I'm going the wrong way. So once you establish the base figure, then you conduct analysis to see if there's any adjustment that needed to be made. This year we felt that there was no adjustment needed. We felt that 17% was the amount of DB participation that we would expect. We looked at what kind of opportunities are there, the number of DB firms are available. Most of them are in construction and special trade. That's where we do most of our business. Most of our contract goals are on construction-type contracts. And let me just back up for a moment. The goal that we're setting, this is the overall goal. We still set individual goals on individual contracts have goals, and those goals and those contracts are, when they are submitted for goal determination, we look at each contract to see what we expect to have in terms of DB participation. So the 17% is the overall 3-year goal. The individual contracts may have a goal which might be higher or lower than 17%. Generally, we've had like 20% participation on construction type contracts.
And the reason why that variance is because on a contract by contract basis, the availability of DBEs in that trade or in that scope of work may differ from what the availability is overall.
And the opportunity for DBE participation means there are some types of contracts which lend themselves to greater participation by DBEs. And by the way, under federal regulations, we set goals on contracts where there's DBE participation in subcontracting opportunities. So construction-type contracts allow us to allow greater flexibility, greater opportunity for DBs in terms of subcontracting opportunities. Wherever there are greater subcontracting opportunities and there are greater number of DB firms, we would set a higher goal. The goal that we set has to be, there are two things that the goal must have. There must be race-neutral measures to achieve the goal as well as race-conscious measures to achieve the goal. A race-neutral measure is when we achieve DB participation without actually setting a goal. Now, there are some contracts in which we would achieve DB participation even though we didn't make any conscious efforts to achieve DB participation, where we didn't set a goal. That would become a race-neutral measure. A race-conscious measure is when we achieve DB participation. We actually set a goal. We say the goal in this context is such and such, and we achieve such and such DB participation. That's a race-conscious way of achieving DB participation. Supposing we set a goal for 10% on a DB participation, and we actually achieve 12%. The 10% is the race-conscious because that's the goal we set. And if we achieve any extra on top of that, that just is considered race-neutral participation because we achieved extra without any making an effort to, without setting a goal for that participation. If then a DB participant just happens to fall, that is considered race-neutral. The well, I guess we'll have more conversations about this. Okay. Something new. The regulations say that you should have, an agency should have race neutral and race as well as race conscious participation, and then you have to divide your goal in between how much you're going to achieve race neutral with DB goals. Without DB goals, how much you're going to achieve with race conscious with DB goals, race neutral without DB goals. So that's what you will. So I will come to that in a minute. So what we did was we basically looked at to see what we averaged in the past. In the past, we've averaged about 1% without without goals. Part of the process also is that there has to be a public participation requirement before we actually submit a goal. So for that, we, as I stated in the staff summary, we had 2 meetings with DBEs, non-DBEs, community outreach groups, advocacy groups, to see, to consult with them to see how they feel about our goal. We also published a notice in general circulation newspapers, which is also listed in the staff summary. Once this goal is published, there is a 45-day comment period. So the comment period started on June 15. So far, we have not received any comments. Once the comments are received, we take the whole comments into consideration, and then we come up, then we have a final goal that we present to the FTA. And the deadline for that is August 1st.
The goal was advertised in which papers?
Okay, I'll have to go to the staff summary for a moment.
It was a Post, it was Amsterdam News, El Dario.
New York Times, Newsday, I believe. I'm sorry, I'm getting the staff summary.
Commerce Weekly, Amsterdam News, the Journal News,
That's it, right.
Newsday.
Right, yes. So when we looked at the projects which we expect to have federal funding, the federal share of those projects for the MTA and the agencies was approximately $2.6 billion, which was available for third-party contracts. So we came up with a 17% goal, as I mentioned earlier, and that's divided between 16% race conscious, using actual goals to achieve the goal. Race neutral, we expect to have about 1% race neutral participation according to the federal regulations. As your race neutral participation rises, you should have fewer goals. What they say is that if you are achieving DB participation without setting any contract goals, then you should have fewer goals and to try to achieve DB participation without actually setting the goals. But we feel that at this point, at least we do have to set goals to achieve DB participation. As our race neutral means result in a greater participation by race neutral means, then we will see how we can adjust our goal and maybe have fewer race conscious, smaller portion of race conscious and a larger percent of race neutral goal. Looking at the past, For federal fiscal year 2008, we achieved about 9%. For federal fiscal years 2009 and 2010, we achieved about 11%. For the first 3 months of this year, that will be the calendar year, we achieved about 17.8%. So we hope that the trend will continue, and we will continue to have greater DBE participation.
Let me say that we are taking a real aggressive and focused approach in dealing with our population of large contractors, that the goal that's being set are the goal that's going to be achieved. Historically, it's been a game that was played here, that a goal was set, the contractor comes back and they tell us that they can't find qualified minority, women-owned, and DBE firms in the marketplace. So we've been taking a very, very hard view and a hard stance against that. Also to the point where we are working internally right now to involve my staff into the contractor evaluation process. And so now the achievement of MWDBE goals is part of the evaluation process for those contractors who fail to meet their goals in 1 and 2 of the 5 categories. They can be banned from bidding. And so we are strengthening the teeth in the goal-setting process and the achievement of MWDB goals. And hopefully this trend is an indication of that hard work and the focus.
In the goal setting for 2008, 9, and 10, what was the shortfall?
Well, the goal was 17%. So and
Throughout?
yes, sir.
Okay.
We haven't changed the goal.
Okay. Okay.
For some time, yes.
Tried to improve the success rate, but
Mhm.
we have been loath to change the goal.
Good.
And just so you understand, I'm really pleased to see 17.8% in the first quarter, but the goal is to improve every year, year after year.
Yes.
So if we get better than 17.8% for the year, then I'm assuming we'll have to set a higher goal for next year.
Well, it all depends on
If the work is there, Nate.
and then the DBEs are there.
And the
Yes.
DBEs.
Relative to the availability of other firms. We have some strategies in improving our DBE participation. We are in the process of implementing a DB certification, the MWDB contract compliance data gathering system. We have also a training program in place where we train small businesses. This is all part of the MTA's mentoring program. We have classes actually ongoing through our schedule for the rest of this year. We have an MTA mentor program for the state-funded contract. We also proposed to the FTA to create a race-neutral mentor program for the federally funded construction project for small businesses, including DBEs. And the rest of the surety bond program and the small business loan program refer to the MTA's mentoring program for the state-funded contracts. We would hope to have similar programs once our mentoring program is approved for the federally funded contracts. Another strategy is to work with prime contractors on large projects to specify work that small businesses, including DBs, can perform. And we also work with will work with prime contractors where we don't have any specific DBE goals, to provide subcontract opportunities for small businesses, including DBEs. And of course, the other strategy would be to debundle large contracts so that there's more opportunity for subcontracting. As Neda mentioned earlier, we have also engaged in aggressive outreach events. We've held special forums for construction-related firms. This is the second year we've done that. We've also had special forums for architecture engineering firms, where we invite the firms as well as large contractors, so they can establish some networking opportunity. They do some networking and have some relationships established. A third forum that we held was for vendor suppliers and IT information technology firms. what we also do is have orientation sessions for firms which are newly certified as minority, women-owned businesses or disadvantaged business enterprises, to have them come in and meet with our agency representatives so that they learn how to do business with the MTA. Additionally, on a monthly basis, we have certification sessions in which we have firms who are interested in becoming certified as DBEs to learn about the certification process. And in some of these sessions, we've also had representatives from the state who can tell them about certification as a minority and women-owned business enterprise. And that's essentially, in a nutshell. I'll look forward to having a more detailed discussion on Wednesday.
It's just real brief. And the mentor program was created at the School Construction Authority, where by the time that I left, we were awarding over $100 million in contract awards to state-certified MWB firms. And the mentor program concept is to debundle larger projects so the smaller firms can bid on as prime contractors, to assist them in getting capital. So Carver Federal Savings Bank is the bank that issue loans to firms who win projects, to help these firms in getting bonding. But in this program, bonding is waived, but we know and understand that we're not doing these firms a favor in the long run by waiving bonding, but we are also helping them to get bonding. So by the time they graduate from this program, they will graduate with bonding, with capital, the right skill set. And also we have a free training program in which the goal and the mission here is to not only train the contractors how to become better contractors, but to train the principals of those companies how to become better owners. And so during the first 9 or 10 months, we have awarded 19 contracts totaling $9.8 million. Sure enough, that 15 of those contracts were awarded to New York State certified MWBE firms, and also 6 contracts were in fact awarded to DBE firms as well. The issue here is that, like the old baseball movie Field of Dreams, if you build a stadium, they'll come. I think historically we have failed in government because we have gone out and certify firms and then try to bring them in and then try to force them into how we do business. I think that if you build a program and a process first and then go out and get firms where they can be integrated into the program, that's the way that we should be going. And so basically, at the end of this year, which ends in 2 weeks, basically we were mandated by state law to award at least $10 million. We will award at least $13 million in the first year. And so we're finding that in this program, we are paying contractors in 5 days. We are making contract awards in 10 days. So this program is now a vehicle for not only fast-track payments, but awarding contracts not in 3 months, but in 2 weeks. And so there are currently 110 firms in the program as we speak right now. 87 firms are in the pipeline. Our goal here is to admit at least 200 firms in this program as we go along.
Can you get there?
Yes, we are. And we have a great story to tell. In every county that we do business in, we have certified firms, with the exception of one county, and that's Putnam. And we've been up there, but we just can't seem to get any of those firms to apply to this program. But we'll keep trying.
I'll work on Mr. Bickford.
Great.
Are you going to go through this, or is this an informational?
Yeah, informational.
Then shall we go to contract
Yes.
lines?
Good afternoon. And these numbers speak specifically to the goal methodology, if you will. It's kind of like the net results. As of March 31st, there were a total number of subcontracts, 4,448, but individually there were 1,219 subcontractors on our various contracts. There's been a slight increase in the number of contracts that were awarded from the previous quarter, about 21 contracts, so the total number of 1,033. Of the participation in these contracts, there's rounded $2.7 billion in the original subcontract amount, but the current subcontract amount is slightly above $2.7 billion in participation. Based on the federally funded contracts from January through March 2011, there were 691 contracts, approximately $193 billion in value, and of that, the FTA dollars was $189 billion. The number of subcontracts that were awarded on these are 10, for a total of $32 million in DBE award, and the FTA dollars were approximately $34 million. And our projected achievement is going to be slightly above that 17%, 17.8 to be exact. Of the state-funded contracts, the combined M&W BE participation, there were 11,233 for approximately $366 million in participation. Total number of subcontractors combined is 181, and the M&W BE award amount is slightly above $19 million. Our goal is 15%. For the first quarter, we're achieving about 5.3. We break it down individually to show the MBE numbers as well as the WBE numbers. So, of the 11,000 contracts, we have a total number of 67 MBE firms participating, slightly over $12 million, or 3.4% of our 10% required MBE goal. On the DBE participation, there are 114 MBE WBE subcontracts, representing approximately $7 million, or 1.9% of the 5% goal. With respect to DBE participation and or payments, if you will, there are, of the 187 contracts, we are approximately $6.6 billion being paid to the prime, and 1,124 DBE subcontractors participating at $768 rounded million, or 11.6% of the 17% participation. That's payments. The combined M&W BE participation of the 846, or $11.11 billion in contracts, there is a total of 3,364, or slightly over $1 billion. And we're achieving 9.8% of the 15%. Individually, the M&W BE payment information of the $11 billion, there were 1,707 MBE subcontracts, representing about rounded $673 billion, or 6.1% of the 10% required goal. The WBE participation, there was 1,657 subs at $408 million, or 3.7% of the 5% required goal. For the first quarter of the participation, the prime payments is slightly above $25 billion. The combined M&W BE subcontracts represent slightly above $2.7 billion, or 11%. For the first quarter of payments, we are achieving rounded $58 million in payments. We were asked to show a comparison of 2010-2011. So for the first quarter, as you can see, we were achieving a 12% percentage participation, and for 2011, we're showing a 15% participation of M&W BE payments.
Thanks, Cheryl. And the last slide here that we have, this is the same data that we had from last meeting, but what's a great sign is that although our goal is 17% on our FTA-funded projects, we are currently over 18%. And that those numbers are going to increase because of the actual numbers I saw for the past 2 months. Those numbers are spiking to about 19%. If you look at the at the M&W, although our goal is 15%, and it's 10% with respect to MBE, we are currently at 9.1%, and with respect to a WBE, we are at 5.1%. Let me also say that our 15% MWBE goal is being increased to double. It's going to be 20% as we go along, and that's aligned with both Chairman Walters and the governor's mandate to increase contract awards to state-certified MWBE firms, and we are on that train. Let me also say that we are in the very early stages of talking with our subway car manufacturers and our bus manufacturers about creating a minority supplier program, and both have agreed that we are going to base that model after the big three automakers, and so we are currently in the early stages of that right now. And we went up to Yonkers to see the operation up there and to meet with the top guy, and they have a full-fledged manufacturing plant up in Yonkers right now as we speak. So we feel very excited about not only focusing on construction, but also focusing now on the manufacturing phase.
Excellent. Anything else to be discussed today? In which case, I move to adjourn until 8:45 Wednesday morning.
And one last point. I just want to, and I say at each and every meeting, that good teams have good people, and the staff here they work hard and long with respect to increasing these contract awards, and it gives me the freedom to go out and to create other type of programs. But they work nights, they work weekends. You see other people leaving at 5 o'clock every day. The staff here stays at 7, 8 at night, and making sure that our mission is achieved.
I totally recognize how hard you all work. I really appreciate seeing you come together, not only as your own staff, but with the agency staffs, and I realize that it's the combined work that made this successful and will continue to make it successful. All I can tell you is the board really does appreciate it, and the numbers show the work that you put into it. Thank you.
Thank you.